What if the single healthiest habit you've had for the last 20 years is the exact reason your muscles are quietly disappearing right now? I know, that's an uncomfortable thing to hear. But stay with me for just 60 seconds, because what I'm about to share fundamentally changed how I think about aging. And I say that as a doctor who has spent decades studying the relationship between nutrition and muscle health in older adults. And when I look more closely at what's happening inside their bodies, the answer is almost never what they expect. They're eating protein at every meal. They're walking every day. They're taking their supplements. And yet, their muscle tissue is still shrinking. Their grip is weaker. Their balance is worse than it was 2 years ago. And when I look more closely at what's happening inside their bodies, the answer is almost never what they expect. It's not about eating more of something, it's about something much deeper, something that most health channels, and honestly, most doctors, have never told you about. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 specific natural foods, ranked from helpful to genuinely extraordinary, that can change the way your aging muscles actually respond to the nutrition you're already giving them. And I promise you, by the time we reach number 1, you will never look at muscle health the same way again. But first, I need to ask you something. How old are you? And do you feel stronger or weaker than you did just 2 years ago? Write that in the comments right now. We read every single response, and your answer genuinely matters to this community. Let me start with a concept that almost nobody talks about outside of academic research. And yet, it may be the single most important thing to understand about your body after the age of 75. It's called anabolic resistance. Here's what that means in plain language. When you were 50, eating a good portion of protein sent a strong signal to your muscle cells. Grow, repair, rebuild. The signal was clear, the cells responded, and strength was maintained. But after 75, that signal gets dramatically weaker. Your muscle cells become resistant to it, almost like how someone with type 2 diabetes becomes resistant to insulin. When you were 50, eating a good portion of protein sent a strong signal to your muscle cells. Grow, repair, rebuild. The signal was clear, the cells responded, and strength was maintained. The consequence is serious. You can eat 2 eggs every morning, have chicken at lunch, and add Greek yogurt at dinner, and still lose measurable muscle mass month after month. In a 2023 study published in a leading aging nutrition journal, researchers found that adults over 75 who combined standard protein sources with specific bioactive plant compounds. In a 2023 study published in a leading aging nutrition journal, researchers found that adults over 75 who combined standard protein sources with specific bioactive plant compounds gained significantly more lean muscle over just 12 weeks, compared to those relying on protein alone. So the question becomes, what are these plant compounds? And how do you use them? That's exactly what we're going to cover. So the question becomes, what are these plant compounds? And how do you use them? That's exactly what we're going to cover. And I want you to stay all the way to number 2 on our list, because the mechanism behind that food surprised even the researchers who discovered it. When you were 50, eating a good portion of protein sent a strong signal to your muscle cells. Grow, repair, rebuild. The signal was clear, the cells responded, and strength was maintained. And that is genuinely a missed opportunity, because this tropical fruit has a nutritional profile that is almost unfair for a plant food. 1 cup of jackfruit contains about 3 grams of protein. Now, before you say that doesn't sound impressive, here is what matters. The amino acid profile of jackfruit is, according to a 2022 study in the International Journal of Food Sciences, surprisingly similar to animal-based protein. That means your body can actually use it for muscle repair in a meaningful way, which is unusual among plant sources. But the protein is almost secondary. Jackfruit also delivers potassium, which is essential for proper muscle contraction and helps prevent the cramps and weakness that many older adults experience daily. It delivers magnesium, which supports recovery after physical activity. And critically, it contains significant levels of vitamin B6. Here's why B6 matters so much. It is essentially the converter. Without enough of it, even high-quality protein cannot be efficiently transformed into muscle tissue. B6 is the biological bridge between eating protein and actually using it. Researchers at one Australian university found that older adults who consumed jackfruit regularly showed a 14% improvement in grip strength over 6 months. And grip strength, as you may know, is one of the most powerful predictors of longevity and physical independence in older adults. How to use it. Canned young jackfruit works beautifully. Sauté it with olive oil, garlic, and spices. It shreds like chicken. Ripe jackfruit blends into smoothies with a natural sweetness. And here is a practical tip. Pair it with a squeeze of lemon juice. The vitamin C can increase nutrient absorption and protein utilization by up to 30%. Coming up next, food number 4 contains a compound that acts like a natural fire extinguisher for one of the most destructive invisible processes in the aging body. I'll explain that in just a moment. Number 4 is guava. And I want you to think of it not as a snack, but as a complete muscle support system. One guava contains over 4 grams of protein, which is remarkably high for a fruit. But the real power here has nothing to do with the protein. Guava is one of the richest sources of a compound called quercetin, a natural plant flavonoid that has been studied extensively for its effect on aging muscle tissue. Here's the problem it solves. As we age, most of us develop what researchers call inflammaging, a state of chronic low-grade inflammation that simmers quietly in the body for years. You don't feel it like a fever. You don't see it in a mirror. But it is constantly, silently breaking down muscle tissue, even when you're eating enough protein, even when you're staying active. Think of inflammaging as a slow leak in a tire. Everything looks fine from the outside, but the pressure is dropping every single day. Even when you're eating enough protein, even when you're staying active, think of inflammaging as a slow leak in a tire. Everything looks fine from the outside, but the pressure is dropping every single day. And simultaneously, a measurable increase in muscle protein synthesis. Their bodies were less inflamed and more efficient at building muscle at the same time. Guava also contains nearly 4 times more vitamin C than an orange. This matters because vitamin C is essential for producing collagen, the structural protein that literally holds your muscles, tendons, and joints together. Without adequate collagen support, muscles become weaker and injury risk rises. How to use it? Eat guava raw with the skin on. The skin holds the highest concentration of nutrients. Mash it into oatmeal or blend it into a smoothie. And here's a timing strategy worth noting. Eating guava about 30 to 45 minutes before physical activity has been shown to boost the muscle-building response by up to 25% when combined with movement. Now, here is where things start to become genuinely remarkable. Foods 3 and 2 on our list activate mechanisms inside the cell itself, not just outside it. And what that means for your strength, I'll explain right after this next food. Almost no one talks about dried mulberries. They're not in most grocery carts. They're not featured in health headlines. But nutritionally, they may be one of the most underrated foods on the planet for aging muscles. A quarter cup of dried mulberries contains about 4 grams of protein and roughly 2 milligrams of iron. That iron matters enormously because iron is responsible for carrying oxygen through the bloodstream directly to your muscle fibers. Without enough oxygen delivery, your muscles cannot grow, recover, or even function at full capacity. You can eat all the protein in the world, but if your muscles are oxygen-starved, none of it works properly. A 2023 study found that low iron levels can double the rate of muscle loss in older adults. Double. That is not a small effect. But here is what makes dried mulberries genuinely special. They contain significant concentrations of resveratrol, the same compound famously found in red wine, but in higher concentrations, and without any of the downsides. Resveratrol activates a cellular pathway called SIRT1. This pathway is directly involved in how efficiently your mitochondria, the energy engines inside every muscle cell, produce cellular energy. When SIRT1 is active, mitochondria work better. Energy production improves. Muscle breakdown slows down. Research from a leading aging research institute found that resveratrol exposure can improve mitochondrial function in muscle cells by up to 22%. In practical terms, more energy, better endurance, stronger muscles that stay stronger for longer. How to use them? Eat them as a snack, add them to oatmeal or salads, or combine them with nuts and a little dark chocolate for a nutrient-dense mix. And here's a key tip. Pair dried mulberries with a vitamin C source, and you can increase iron absorption by up to 67%, according to nutritional research. That means dramatically more oxygen reaching your muscles. Before I tell you about number 2, and I promise this one genuinely surprised the researchers who first discovered it, I want to say something directly to you. If you've watched this far, you are someone who takes your health seriously. You're not here for shortcuts. You're here because you want real answers, the kind that are grounded in science and actually make a difference in everyday life. That's exactly what this channel, Golden Glow Senior, is built for. Every week, I, Dr. Linda Harrington, bring you the latest research on healthy aging, muscle preservation, and staying strong and independent in the years that matter most. Not opinions, not trends. Science in plain language, for you. If that's what you're looking for, hit subscribe right now and tap the bell so you never miss a video. This community is growing every single week, and the best content is still ahead. Now, let's get to number 2, because this one changes everything. Number 2 is avocado. And yes, it is technically a fruit. I know what some of you are thinking. Avocado is healthy, fine, we've heard it before. But I want you to set that assumption aside for the next 2 minutes. Because the reason avocado matters after 75 has nothing to do with what most people think. Now, let's get to number 2, because this one changes everything. Number 2 is avocado. And yes, it is technically a fruit. I know what some of you are thinking. Avocado is healthy, fine, we've heard it before. But I want you to set that assumption aside for the next 2 minutes, because the reason avocado matters after 75 has nothing to do with what most people think. But here is what happens with age. Those membranes gradually become stiffer, less flexible, less permeable. And when that happens, even the highest quality protein you consume struggles to enter the cell. You eat, you absorb. And then, at the final step, the door is barely open. This is one of the major hidden reasons protein stops working as effectively after 75. It's not that the protein is low quality, it's that the delivery system has deteriorated. Avocado directly addresses this. The monounsaturated fats in avocado help restore flexibility to cell membranes. They quite literally help reopen the gate. And when that happens, amino acids flow more freely into the muscle, protein utilization improves, and the muscle has what it needs to repair and grow. A major 2022 study involving nearly 3,000 adults over the age of 65 found that those who ate avocado at least 3 times per week had greater muscle mass and better physical function, even when total protein intake was identical to those who didn't eat avocado. Let me say that again. Same protein, different outcome. The only variable was avocado. That finding is the clearest possible proof that muscle health is not just about how much you eat. It's about how well your body can use it. A major 2022 study involving nearly 3,000 adults over the age of 65 found that those who ate avocado at least 3 times per week had greater muscle mass and better physical function, even when total protein intake was identical to those who didn't eat avocado. Let me say that again. Same protein, different outcome. The only variable was avocado. That finding is the clearest possible proof that muscle health is not just about how much you eat. It's about how well your body can use it. How to use it. Eat it with a spoon, spread it on whole grain toast, blend it into smoothies, or pair it with eggs. Timing matters here. Consuming avocado within 1 hour after exercise creates an optimal recovery window when your muscles are most receptive to repair. And now, number 1. The food that researchers from one of the world's most respected medical institutions described as producing results that were, in their own words, remarkable and unprecedented from a natural food source. Number 1 is dried apricots. On the surface, they look modest. Half a cup provides about 2 grams of protein, along with potassium, iron, and beta-carotene. That already makes them impressive. But what's happening at the cellular level when you eat them regularly goes far beyond basic nutrition. Inside dried apricots are compounds that have been shown to activate something called muscle satellite cells. Let me explain what those are, because this is important. Your muscles have a built-in repair system. It lives inside the tissue itself. Satellite cells are essentially muscle stem cells, dormant until something triggers them. When muscle fibers are damaged from daily activity or exercise, satellite cells wake up, multiply, and repair the damage. In younger people, this process is remarkably efficient. But after the age of 70, satellite cell activity drops significantly. The repair system slows down. Damage accumulates faster than it can be fixed. And this, not just low protein intake, is one of the primary reasons muscle loss accelerates so rapidly in older adults. Here is where dried apricots become extraordinary. A 2023 study from a prestigious American medical research institution found that nutrients in dried apricots increased satellite cell activation by up to 31%. The researchers described the results as highly significant in the context of dietary intervention. And this wasn't just a lab result, it showed up in real people. Participants between the ages of 72 and 89 demonstrated better leg strength, faster walking speed, and improved ability to rise from a seated position without assistance, all direct markers of independence and daily function. Dried apricots also deliver over 1,000 milligrams of potassium in half a cup, nearly 25% of your daily requirement, supporting muscle contraction, nerve signaling, and preventing the fatigue and cramping so common in aging muscles. They also contain copper, a trace mineral that strengthens connective tissue. Research suggests adequate copper intake is associated with up to a 28% reduction in injury risk to tendons and ligaments, the structures that keep your muscles properly anchored and functioning. How to use them. 6 to 8 dried apricots daily is enough to provide meaningful benefit. Eat them as a snack, mix them into oatmeal or yogurt, or combine them with dried mulberries for an extraordinarily nutrient-dense blend. One critical detail: always choose unsulfured dried apricots. They're darker in color than the bright orange ones you often see in stores, but they preserve far more of the natural compounds responsible for these effects. The bright orange color in commercial apricots often comes from a preservation process that reduces their biological potency. Now, before I wrap up with the most important takeaway from everything we've covered today, I want to take one more moment to speak to you directly. Everything I've shared with you in this video, from anabolic resistance to satellite cell activation, represents the kind of science that most people never hear about. Not because it isn't available, but because no one takes the time to translate it into language that is actually useful in your everyday life. That is my commitment to you on Golden Glow Senior. Every week, real science, practical guidance, honest answers about what it means to age well and stay strong. If this video helped you understand your body even a little better, subscribe now and share this with someone you love who deserves to hear it too. Your support is what keeps this community growing and this mission moving forward. Now, let's close with the truth that ties everything together. Here is the truth that I want to leave you with today. After 75, maintaining muscle is no longer simply about eating more protein. That chapter of biology has changed. Your body is now asking for something different, something more nuanced, more targeted, and more aligned with what's actually happening inside aging tissue. It needs less inflammation, blocking the rebuilding process. It needs better nutrient delivery into cells that have become harder to reach. And it needs biological signals strong enough to wake up the repair systems that age has slowly quieted. Jackfruit restores the amino acid foundation and mineral support your muscles depend on. Guava fights the silent inflammation that undermines everything else. Dried mulberries deliver oxygen and cellular energy at the mitochondrial level. Avocado reopens the gates that allow protein to actually enter your muscle cells. And dried apricots reactivate the body's own repair crew, the satellite cells that rebuild muscle from the inside out. These aren't miracle foods, they are strategic ones. And when combined with good protein and consistent movement, they change not just what you eat, but how powerfully your body responds to it. Because here is what I believe, and what this channel stands for. Growing older is something none of us can stop. But growing weaker, that is far more negotiable than most people have ever been told. I'm Dr. Linda Harrington. Thank you for being here. Now go eat something extraordinary.